Great day, family and friends. Welcome to another live conversation with Dr. Wilson Speaks Live. Tonight is guaranteed to be an exciting conversation where we are going to talk about this viral video again, or this viral issue of Coach Prime, who is leaving Jackson State University and headed to Colorado. So I want you all to join in, give us feedback, because we all have varying views, differing opinions. Some people's opinions probably might get them in trouble. Hint, hint to the panelists. But nevertheless, we're going to have a brutal and an honest conversation about this issue. And what I want you all to frame in your mind is that this issue is actually quite bigger than just Coach Prime. This issue is, are we obligated to stay when someone gives us a heads up, when someone gives us a step up, or when we use something as a stepping stone within our community is viewed in so many differing ways. The question that I want to ask our people is, are we obligated to stay there? And that's why I say this situation is bigger than just Coach Prime, because it's an issue that's systemic within our communities. And so I want to get ready to welcome our guest panelists. First up, we have my frat brother, Mr. L.J. Thomas. Welcome to the panel, Mr. Thomas. We have
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm coming back to you so everyone can give a proper introduction. Actually, let me go ahead and do that now. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Brother Thomas.
Good evening. My name is Leofric Thomas, hailing out of Jacksonville, Florida, by way of Richmond, Virginia, Henrico County, Virginia. I'm sure we'll get into some other stuff later, into some other things. So we'll hold that stuff off for now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Lee Africa is definitely indeed my brother. We came into Alpha at the same time, and I'm glad that we kept this brotherhood alive where I can circle back, and he answered the call, and so he is here. Next, my brother from another mother, the person who walked through that doctoral program with me when I didn't have any sense in terms of what I was doing. My brother, my friend, Dr. Roderick King. Welcome back, Dr. King. Introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Roderick King. The part that he won't tell everyone is that he tricked me. I was just supposed to be giving him a ride. I found myself stuck getting earning a doctoral degree. So, but all hats off to him. I appreciate it. It was a great opportunity, and it was most definitely a great achievement. I hail from the big city of Palaca, Florida. I'm now here in Daytona Beach, Florida, and I am honored to have this opportunity to share on this topic tonight. I'm excited. I am excited, Dr. Wilson.
Yes, sir. The beautiful metropolis of Palatka, Florida. So my friend, my brother, Dr. Headley White, one of the smartest men I know. Welcome to the fold, Dr. White. Introduce yourself. My frat brother, Dr. White.
Good evening. Hello. How are you doing? My name is Headley White. I'm from many places, but right now I reside right outside of Daytona. Dr. Wilson is one of those people that have a magnetic personality. He gets you to do things with just a ask. And he is my frat brother. He is my brother, and he always makes me feel welcome. So I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you, Brother White, Dr. White. And certainly last but not least, one of my newest fraternity brothers, and as I say, one of the shadiest people I know. Because he's coming with some comments. He is my Brother Simp McCorvey the Fourth.
What an introduction. All right.
Go ahead and give us a shady comment starting off.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Simp McCorvey the Fourth from the true first city in this country, Pensacola, Florida. Currently reside in Kissimmee, and I am an attorney.
He is coming. He is coming. He's coming. So listen, I have a great panel here tonight, and I'm going to try to keep them calm, but I know who I'm dealing with, and I know how things rise up. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. we're going to start talking about Coach Prime, but this is really not about Coach Prime because I think the conversation is bigger than him. So I am going to ask each of you as you jump in, when you heard the news, what was your first thought or reaction to it? You can go. I got people that are scared to talk. Hold on.
I was disappointed.
You're trying to be, but I'll go. When I first heard the news, it didn't shock me. It didn't shock me. It didn't shock me at all. It was expected. It was something that was expected. And I'm pretty sure that we're going to get into it a whole lot more, but I want to give that point. It didn't shock me. It didn't take me by surprise or anything because it was what I expected. It was what I expected.
So you expected that one day he was going to leave?
Most definitely. I thought it probably would have been maybe 3 years to give his son a little. I thought he would have stayed the duration of the time that his sons were there, but there was nothing about him being there. We got to look at opportunity. It's the job market. It's opportunity. We say what we need to say while we're where we're at in order to build our resume and market ourselves. We say no disrespect to him. Because I do believe that when you're in a job, your obligation is to do the best you can while you're at that job. You want to put your best foot forward, which that is what he did. It's evident that that's what he did. But however, it didn't shock me because I knew it was next opportunity. That was the seed that was supposed to produce the plant to his next opportunity.
Okay. Jump in, brothers.
I think I agree. I was thinking, I knew he wasn't going to be. The days of Jake Gaither and Eddie Robinson are gone. They're over. So I knew that wasn't going to happen. I agreed. I thought he was going to be there until his sons at least matriculated, and then he was going to go. But we should have understood what was going on when he made those attempts. But I think and we will probably get into it. There's a lot of feelings. People are in their feelings, and I for 24 hours I was really in my feelings as well. And we'll discuss why many of us were in our feelings. But I wasn't surprised. I just thought, like I said, I was looking forward for at least another year or two. But yeah.
Okay.
And I'll say the same. I don't want to prolong everybody else's sentiments, but I feel the same way. More so disappointed that he didn't stay at least one more year. I thought he needed at least one, maybe two to see his sons through. But that was about it. I could say I had those emotions. Maybe not 24. I'll push it to 48. But I did have a little emotion behind that. But I definitely thought he was going to stay at least to see his sons out.
Okay.
And I guess I got to stand alone on this one because I am totally shocked and disappointed. Let's look at the history book, shall we? Mm-hmm. When Deion Sanders last year talking to Florida A&M football players about, hey, I want to hop in the transfer portal. Did he not get on social media and say, no, please stay for the HBCU culture, stay for the movement? Way before we had this whole talk about Colorado, did he not get on his social media platform and say, hey guys, I'm going to go do this thing over here. I'm going to go do this thing over here. No, I am not. Emphasis on no, I am not talking to other schools. This is the same Deion Sanders, right?
Yeah.
The same Deion Sanders that said, God told me to come to Jackson State and help out the HBCUs. The same Deion Sanders, right?
Yeah.
Come on, man. The money can't be that good. Because listen, he had opportunities to go to TCU after his first year. He was linked to that job. He was like, no. Everybody's like, yay, for the movement. He had opportunities to go to Auburn. He was like, no, he stayed. Yay, for the movement. Now he wants to go to what? 1-11, 1-10 Colorado? Really? Okay.
If I may jump in, and I understand that sentiment most definitely, because I would tell you as it pertains, that's really kind of the side that I'm on. Not that I'm upset with him, but I knew that's what was going to happen. I was that kid who had a Deion Sanders poster in my bedroom. Air traffic control, Atlanta Falcons. I had that poster. He was prime time. So there was nothing prime time about Jackson State. For me, when he came to Jackson, it was all about him marketing himself and marketing his son. And some people would see that as hate. Some people, no, he's taking care of his family. But that's what he said. So when people say people are hating on him or whatever, no, these are things you're only stating what he said. So that's where the ill will comes in, because you made a promise and you got some kids to make some commitments and promises. And then when you ran into a situation where the facilities were nice, the money was right, and everything, you took off. I'm not mad at you about that, but I do understand the sentiment of, look, you made some promises. You said this is what you were going to do. So in essence, you have to understand when people feel some type of way, I don't think we should act like they don't have a right to feel the way that they feel, because there was some promises, if you may say, that were made to a lot of these players, these institutions, and different things. But we know promises are meant to be broken.
Mm-hmm. I think that, to piggyback, I think that the feelings part was Deion knew he wanted to coach. He wanted to coach at a collegiate level, but he was missing a couple of things, and one of them was degree. So where did he go? He didn't go back to Florida State. He went to Talladega. He received his degree from Talladega, and then he went and he took the Jackson State job. And from my standpoint, I think the reason that he didn't take was it TCU or Auburn is because of their place, facilities. And it's in the South.
The facilities,
and not even that, but it's in the South.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And so he went to Colorado, where if he wins 2 games, he doubles that. So the expectations, I think that's part of it. I think he was always going to do that. But you think about it. If you go to Auburn, Auburn is Auburn. Even though, it's in Alabama, but it's still Auburn. So you still got to, same thing. When you have a storied program, it's really hard. So when you take a Jackson State, and it has a storied history, don't get me wrong, but when you turn it around so quickly, and then if you go to Colorado, you have even a modicum of success. So even if they go 500, that's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. So I think that opportunity presented itself. But at the same time, as you said, when you invoke religion in the Black community, right? So you invoke religion and you do good things, and he did good work. I'm not taking any of that away from him, because he did a lot. He's done a lot and put the spotlight on HBCUs, and he put a blueprint out there as well. And so I think that there's that sense of, here we go again. Mm-hmm. They come, they take, they leave. And we've seen it. We see it in so many different facets of the Black experience in this country. So I think that was part of it. And I think a lot of people felt betrayed. And I think that, in other words, they even, they just felt some kind of way, because it's just like, dang, we had these things. I'm sorry.
It seemed like you're saying that he sold them a dream. Really?
Yeah, he did.
And he threw a little bit of Jesus in there.
And he did. I mean, come on. I was in Jackson. We were in Jacksonville in the Jaguar Stadium looking around, and I remember I was talking to my son. And I said, "This wouldn't have happened if that man wasn't here." And that's true. I mean, it hadn't. I mean, he brought in a lot of money, but I also think, and there's the rub. I also think that it has shown the Achilles heel of our programs and our facilities and everything else, because that's one person. So that one person leaves, everybody's acting like it's the end of the world, and it shouldn't be. What it should say, because Willie Simmons is a hell of a coach. I shouldn't say, but I mean, and there are other good coaches, and I think we need to start with, okay, I'm gonna say one thing and I'm gonna go back. One thing that Deion said that was true, and one thing I've been saying, and of course I'm not Deion, I hate the money games where we go and get clobbered, right? We go to and play at PWI for $500,000, whatever else. Our players get hurt. They tee off on our players. They want to see our band. It's almost like a dog and pony show. Well, let's let the HBCU come in. Look at their band. Look at their culture. Okay, let's tee off on them and get 56, 70, 80 points. Get them hurt. Here's their check. Go on about your business. So he was like to say that we just need to play ourselves and elevate ourselves. So I think that was part of it. And I think a lot of people were behind that dream, and then he just went away. And the way that he did it, like like brother McCarvey said, 1 minute he's saying I'm not going to do it, I'm here, and then he's gone. And it is another stripe on the back of the Black community in many people's the way that they look at it, and it's true. But we have to figure out what we're going to do. And there's been so many things. I saw so many articles, and we'll probably get into it, about Eddie Robinson trying to challenge the NCAA in the 80s when they basically started the media programs that shut HBCUs, right? And then really had the exodus, especially like University of Miami and everything else, had the exodus of players away from HBCUs. So that thing came back. A lot of old feelings, a lot of old heads brought back all this information. They say, see, it happened again.
But my question would be which is the impetus of this talk today is, what is the obligation? He came, he took a job. What is his obligation to Jackson State? Should he have stayed? We know people have different opinions. Should he have gone? Was it for a specific amount of time? What was his obligation to us, in terms of him coming to stay? Adrian King said, based on his statement, she thought it'd be for the long haul, at least 4 years or so. Was he mandated to put in that time, or was he mandated to go to a job like many of us do every day and work until they leave? Go ahead, Lee Africa. I see it coming.
I don't think he has an obligation. I mean, let's be honest. This is Deion. Deion wasn't obligated to any team when he played. So why did we think that same way when he coached? He has no obligation, but he did have a 4-year contract that he didn't fulfill because he's leaving after the 3rd year. And my thing is, that's why I said I at least thought he was going to give us 1 more year. And that's where my disappointment came in, because he said out of his own mouth, I did not fulfill my 4-year contract. Well, why not stay the entire 4 years? What is the reason if you say it's not about the bag? Why are you leaving so quickly? And if it's not about the bag, and if it's about your coaches, you said it before, but what is the reason for leaving now? And that's not what he's saying. Not saying that, like I said, he's not obligated to tell us anything. And I've seen some people say, well, he's leaving for his coaches, and nobody said he wasn't going to leave for a Power 5 school. He wasn't getting interviewed and all this stuff. But now, if you look at social media, they said he didn't get an interview with Auburn. But this joker been messing with Colorado for the last month, and not no person knew. He was still posting about recruiting. He was still posting about stuff with JSU. But behind closed doors, he was messing with Colorado. So now we know that he has no obligation to Jackson State. He's telling you right now, from the past to now, he had no obligation to HBCU football. But when he came in, he said he had an obligation to HBCU football. He was going to be, as Brother McCorby said, he was going to be the Dr. Martin Luther King of HBCU football. Yep. That's saying you're saying before you even stepped your foot in the water that I have an obligation. And now since you leave, we're supposed to feel like you don't.
So he said.
Mm-hmm. I'm not telling you that, but if I'm saying something wrong, somebody please tell me. But before he jumped in those waters, he said, oh, those boys should have names on the back of their jerseys. Those boys should have this. There's no reason why HBCU, and it started to happen. But why? Who's going to carry that torch? Nobody is Deion but Deion. I think we all know this. So my thing is, if you say you have an obligation at the beginning and then you leave before that obligation, I guess you could say, some may say it's finished, but to me, I feel a little differently. So if you leave before we think that obligation has been fulfilled, then where does that leave us? And I think that's my question to that.
Mm-hmm. Herbert Brown
said there's a sense of duality in this question about what is our obligation, right? Mm-hmm. If we looked at the media today, we saw that coach of Mississippi Valley, Coach Dancy, decided to leave Mississippi Valley and go be a part of Coach Deion Sanders' staff in Colorado. Same guy, same from a SWAC, same from Mississippi, but yet he's not getting nowhere near as much backlash or controversy as Dion is getting. Sure, he was not as big of a popular figure as Dion, but he essentially did the same thing, right? I came to a university, I coached a team, and I'm leaving before my time is up, according to my paperwork. And we all know the poaching school has to pay for the buyout clause. Look at Willie Taggart when Florida State did it to Oregon, and when FAU did it after Florida State decided to say it's time to go, right? Willie Taggart, who also went to Colorado. Anywho, the point is, you can't say Dion was this once in a lifetime figure. Sure, he's unique. He's a unique individual, right? But look at Tennessee State. They have Eddie George, arguably a same level platform person as Dion. He doesn't get the success. He doesn't get the notoriety. He doesn't get the back and forth because, simply put, they're not in an all HBCU conference. They're in the Ohio Valley Conference. They play HBCUs, 3 times a year? That's it. And then they go back to playing who's on their schedule. But yet, Eddie George didn't come around saying, I'm God's gift to Jackson State. You people did not have anything before I got here, and I'm going to make you guys better because the Lord spoke to me and I have to do this. At what point do we say, if Deion Sanders is going to be held to this standard, okay, you also, head coach, are we going to hold you to that same standard, or is it just because Deion came with the lifetime or the long-term promise, and the other guys said, hey, I'm here. If it works, it works. If not, it doesn't work.
It's if I could, it's in this way, it's difficult because I feel like I'm even though I'm not in that situation, I'm not in a situation yet to be able to say I'm signing a contract for $5 million. Well, before I was making $500,000. And I know for him, the money is not an issue, but the bag is an issue. At some point in time, the bag always becomes the issue. You know, when we're making decisions, yes, we're making decisions based on our family, our spouse, our children, location, and stuff. But that bag is going to come up at some point in time. When we look at these coaches in our HBCU divisions, they're, as an assistant coach, they will probably make more than they make as a head coach. This gives them an opportunity to help build, turn around, and may even get a better head coaching opportunity at a Power 5 or a much higher level D1 school, and increases their opportunity to get their bag. With Dion leaving and Dion doing what he did, it enhanced an opportunity for a lot of different individuals. I think one of the biggest things it makes us point out is his not so much was it his obligation to stay, but was it his obligation to see the change that he promised through? So when you stand before and you know, I always say people will stand before God and get married, but they won't go nowhere near him and get a divorce. You see, so when you make that covenant, you know, if we're gonna go there, because he kept using God, when you make that covenant agreement and say this, was it his responsibility to see the change through? He started a process, but here's the biggest kicker here. It's not that Dion is the savior. It's that Dion is marketable. He has marketed himself all through his career. I had this conversation with my wife. I say the reason Eddie George will never get, and I'm not taking anything away from Eddie George, thought he was a stand-up guy as a professional and think he's doing an awesome job as a coach. The issue is he's not marketable. Dion stays on the social media platforms. He puts himself out there. He was already on television. So I think sometimes, was it his responsibility not to get something started, but was it his responsibility to see it through? Could be a question as well, because you told me you love me, but now you left me. And we see it all the time in coaching. Coaches will take a better job or a higher paying job when that opportunity presents itself. But for me, this situation was different. You said that you were coming, as my brothers have said, to make a change and to see that change through. That change hasn't come through, and now you left me at the altar. or if you didn't leave me at the altar after the honeymoon is over, now you want a divorce. And some people, and I'm closing. I'm listening to me telling me I'm closing. Some people,
we preach it.
Some people would say, it was never even to that point. But I'm telling you, people are hurt because you got to understand that syndrome. When we met you, you built us up. You told us that we had value. You dressed us up. You made us look nice. You gave me things that I never had. You make me feel better about myself than I've ever felt in my life. And then all of
the picture, King.
I don't want you no more. I know. So now what? You got to go, but no. Now you got to go and allow somebody else to pour value into you. And I can understand the flip side of that. I've told you how valuable you are. Now go out there and live. But if I've never lived this life, how do I continue? Because I've never ever met anybody like you. So okay, stop, King.
And but see, even with that, when you leave, you take half, because not only did you say I'm leaving, but you saying I'm bringing the Louis. You say I'm bringing the Louis with me.
Louis.
So how does that program, or how does that person sustain itself, or sustains its value when you built this person up and built this up, and you say, hey, I'm bringing what I had with me. So you might as well just leave that, but you coming with me. So that's the other piece I had of that. But I'm
so in other words, I get it. You're taking the sustainability with you. And see, I'll be honest with you, I had a very differing opinion prior to hearing your conversation right now, because I'm thinking he left. What I expected it to happen. I mean, come on. When we go to a job, if you think about it in this way, if we go to a job, how many of us are committed to that job for life? And if you really look at the millennials and the post-millennials, they're not loyal at all. They go to a job looking to leave. They're looking for a reason. You make me mad, I'm not going to show up tomorrow. So in my view, I'm thinking this is a job for him. He's going to do the job. When he no longer wants the job, he's going to move on. Because I go back here again, LJ, I'm going to go back here again. When we all go to the job, we put our best foot forward. We love this job. We praise this job. I see people do that all the time on social media, right? They'll praise the job. Oh, I love my job. Oh, this is the best job. And after a while, you see the posts decrease. And next thing you know, they're out shopping for a new job. What makes him any different that he wasn't going to do this? And that's why I said the conversation for me is bigger than Coach Prime. This is the thinking of America. We come to leave. And Rod, Dr. King, you gave the scenario about the divorce. Think about this. Most people are getting married now. When they walk into the marriage, they have a prenuptial. In other words, they're walking into the marriage to get divorced. When we go into the job, we're walking into the job thinking about what is our next career move while we are getting this job. Even while we're sitting there and the people ask us up front, we've all been there. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oh, I see myself in your position. You're telling a lie. You know you ain't gonna see yourself in that position. But anyway, go ahead.
But it's I say this short thing and I let everybody else say. It's always one thing that before we accept the job or while we're on the job that we say, dog, I cannot leave this position or that. We may be on the job 5, 10 years. You say, you know what, I'm staying because they treat me right. My time is flexible, all this stuff. But the one thing, if it comes down to it, Dion is gonna miss. It's gonna be the same thing he sold us on, and that's the culture. And I'll sign off with that.
That's
one thing that, well, following Dion, is the difference between Dion and Prime. So when you talk about obligation, we saw a lot of Prime, Coach Prime, and we saw a little bit of Dion. But when he walked into Colorado, when he got off that jet, when he had on that fur coat, that was Prime. That was Prime doing the Prime thing. When he told those kids in Colorado, you might as well get in the portal, that was Prime. I think a couple of times, a couple of interviews, you may have seen Dion, but as has been brought up, he has always been about his legend, his legacy, and what he's doing. I'm another opinion that I formulated. I think that he left because he said it in his speech. You either get elevated or terminated. And that's one thing that resonated with me through the entirety. And okay, I'm gonna step on some toes.
Go ahead.
There are a lot of good people. There are a lot of good people in a lot of positions who stayed for the obligation and ended up getting escorted off campuses.
Yep.
There are a lot of good coaches who had great graduation rates. Were there for the players. Didn't get any trouble. No ethics violations. No Title IX. No, but they didn't win enough games. Even if they had won a championship, they got fired. So in that position, there's always that in the back of your mind. So he was like, okay, I did this. Look at Jackson State is the bump. Now, as Brother Thomas brought up, it's like getting fired for your job, Brother Wilson. And you said, I'm taking the computer, the files, I'm out. You do what you do. Okay, fine. You know, and you know, in certain places, Brother Wilson, when they escort you off, they make sure you don't have nothing in your pocket but yourself. You just go. But I think you know, in all seriousness, that's part of the issue. That he did that because he took a chunk of what he built up, you know, and you see it sometimes with some coaches. They might take one or two players, but he had people decommit from Jackson State. He took a whole bunch of players. He had players from all. I mean, he's going to have a embarrassment of riches of people trying to get to Colorado, and he's gonna do the same thing. So my whole thing,
I think that's the part that's really bad. It's bad enough when you leave, but when you take the Army with you, you cripple the people that you just left. But I have to bring up this question. Dr. Brown, who has corrected me, Dr. Hubert Brown said, and this coming at you, Dr. King, do you think that he prayed about his move? What if God released him to go?
Hey, and guess what? That's a possibility that he could have released him to go. That is a possibility. He could have released him to go. But at the end of the day, this is where a lot of times we need to make sure that we don't say too much. We know when we talk too much, that's how we get ourselves in trouble.
Oh,
because people, guess what? You know what I'm saying? Because people, just like people remember what you do, they also remember what you say. And that's the thing with social media. They start pulling stuff back that you said. So if he wouldn't have been saying all these things, it wouldn't have been. So if God decided to release him, because we also know that God would tell us, don't tell that. Keep your mouth shut. Be quiet about that. If he'll speak to you about making that move and releasing you, he'll speak to you and tell you when to speak and when not to speak. But sometimes we have to understand who he is. You know, he's Dion. And like Dr. White was saying, he could have been operating his prime and begin to start talking and saying too much because it wasn't it. But here's the thing. You came and you built something. I was just there thinking, as we were talking about that, riding down the road with my bike and everything's going fine, but all of a sudden the chain comes off. Man, that's an accident waiting to happen. I'm going to show you something and I'm going to move because this is why it's important. I know we're talking about that obligation, but this is too. Is it his obligation to leave what he built intact? This is why I say that. Here it is. He built Jackson State. Think about this. He built Jackson State. You're taking what you had. When this next coach, I hope he does an awesome job. But if he doesn't, they can't do it like Prime, baby. Baby, they can't do it like Prime. If he come on now. He goes to Colorado, which I think it was Dr. White who pointed out. Look at Colorado's record. Perfect choice of schools to go to. Because now if you win a couple of games, look how Prime came in here and turned it around. That's the same way when I got to Jackson State, we had a few kinks to work out. It's when you sit there and you look at it. So I think too, we have to understand if we say, because I'm thinking now we're builders, be fruitful, multiply. That being fruitful means to be productive. I know we heard go and make babies. It doesn't mean go and make babies. It means for us to be productive so we can be prosperous. So he was productive in what he was doing, but then it's like taking a bulldozer, tearing down what you built and leaving that for someone else and say, okay, now I did it, so you can do it too. Is that fair? That's just like me buying a house that somebody else lived in and they tore it down and they say, well, you got to live in this. It's not fair. So there is also an obligation when we build something. Do we take what we built and leave it for somebody else, or do we leave a legacy there and say this is what we're going to continue to take place? So it's so much in that, so much.
Since Dion wants to put God into so much, let's look in the Bible. When Jesus died, put in a tomb. It was not his tomb. It was borrowed from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
When Jesus rose, the Bible tells us that he folded the sheets, put them together nicely, and walked away.
You don't do. Come on now.
That is his obligation as
You
an
better preach,
HBCU
Slip.
coach, part of the culture, moving this movement of, hey, an HBCU is not an inferior product. An HBCU can get you to the next level. An HBCU can get you wherever you're trying to go. It's not just a slogan on a pamphlet, right? And I'm going to show you that it's possible. I'm going to show you this steps and this step and this step that we can get to the level where we can play the Ole Misses, the Mississippi States, the whoever's, and not feel like, oh man, it's 55-0 at halftime, and we are really here just for a check. If we're being honest, yes, the resource gap is strong. Let's look at stats. I'm a numbers person. Look at some of the major state and public HBCUs across the country. Historically, some schools have been underfunded by billions with a B, billions. Some schools, hundreds of millions of dollars. So yes, there is no way you can compete when the deck is already stacked against you this high. And when you finally get somebody who can say, hey guys, I have a microphone, and this microphone is attached to their cameras, and they're gonna want to listen to what I have to say, I'm going to come work with you. I am doing a disservice, and I'm not fulfilling my obligation to you if whenever I come to you and say, give me the chance. I have no experience as a D1 coach ever in my life. And I get the opportunity. And the second that I get something else, I take it and I take everything that I built with me. Sure, Dion is not God's gift to football, no matter what he may say or what his Hall of Fame speech may talk about, right? But at the same time, he still had the obligation to say, I came to Jackson State. I had the whole HBCU spectrum on my shoulders. The least I can do is not tear it down just so I can go to a PWI and build that up.
Wow. I got to read this. My sister is having a full conversation with me through Messenger. I don't know why she just won't post it, but she sent this to me. She said, the question is, how do Black colleges or students trust that he won't sell wolf tickets to them again? And many will say that he's a sellout, but she also is looking at it as a business deal to him. So, you know, are we leaving kids who put their trust in him? Go ahead.
Dr. Wilson, I had the honor and the great opportunity to play football at the great BCC. Not BCU, BCC. And here's the thing. I came in while Coach Cy McLaren made his comeback as the head football coach. We knew that Coach Wyatt was going to take over the program, but it still left many of us broken, if not most of us who played under coach. We know it, but that was our coach. He recruited us. He was a father figure to us. You know what I'm saying? It was so much that he did for us behind the scenes and behind, you know what I'm saying, to made us feel like even though our seasons were not sometimes the best, it made us, Coach Wyatt came in and changed the trajectory of everything. He went on a tear for a minute. But it still doesn't change the fact that it leaves many of our young men and women, because guess what? When you take all that from Jackson State, now guess what they have to make a decision to do? They have to make a decision whether they stay, some of them ones who had D1 opportunities, or whether now they get in the portal. So that level of play that we saw, do we see it diminish now? Because these students no longer want to come and compete in a conference that was being built up. It doesn't just affect when we chase that bag, and I'm gonna just say it could be other reasons. When we chase that bag, we have to understand we're losing something. We might be gaining something, but we're losing something. And what you lose, it may not affect you, but it has the potential to affect so many other people.
You know, football's always been a business. And you know that. But I think with, social media, name, image, likeness, all of that stuff. It's been spread amongst the students. So now they're mini businessmen, and they're saying, how can we get the exposure? Now, like I said, when I was in my feelings, because I know I was defending Coach for a lot of things. I was like, he's done so much in such a short period of time, and I was just like, think about, everybody's talking about swag, 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 and I'm like, outside of HBCU circles until 3 years ago, and now there were kids, and it goes back to what you said. There were kids looking at, I could go to a HBCU, I could do this, I could do that, I get a chance to play against them, I get a chance to do this, and we're going to lose some of that. We're going to lose some of that because some of these kids have other opportunities. And I, as a professor, and that's my issue, I'm more worried about after football. I think the obligations and state as well, because that was generating service. Facilities always leads to other facilities and infrastructure and money that goes to students and better business opportunities all the way around. So I think that's an issue. And even though he said he left, and he did say I have like Under Armour, he said the contract's still there for that. And I think there was some other Aflac and all these other sponsors. They said they're still going to stay. And he had handpicked. I forgot the coach that he handpicked. Because he said, and he with the
Taylor's,
yeah. But the question I have with that, Dr. White, is he may leave all of that, but if the program is not sustainable, will those people stay?
And that's where I was going. That's where I was going. See, that's the issue. That's because Brother King brought it up. He's you're heartbroken. Not only are you heartbroken. I mean, think about how many. Let's talk about BCU. Let's talk about BCU. Let's talk about FAMU. How many people that aren't technically students are affiliated with that school and feel some kind of way? And in Jackson, that whole, for 2 years, they were like, they were the hub of the HBCU world. They were, people, things were happening, things were jumping. You talk about, JSU, and they're wearing their nail, they're doing whatever, and now that's gone. And so there's a, I feel for Jackson State. I mean, I know they're going to be all right, but it's going to be painful. And not only that, the entire conference. I mean, because it's like it's a reset. So what do you do after the Celebration Bowl? What do you do? What's next year going to look like? There were plans in the works. What's going to happen? And even talking to some of my students who are athletes, they were talking about, and especially with the situation at our school as well. They were like, well, I can't trust anybody. And so what I'm going to do, and many of these students, some of our students come from some extreme circumstances. So it's just like, that's my worry. And I think that was part of while I was in my feelings. I was like, you can't keep doing that. I understand what he's trying to do, but he should have thought about that. And even if he stayed for the 4 years and then left, then he'd be like, okay, I fulfilled that. If I have a contract, I fulfilled that. And I understand the other part about he might have lost his job if something else happened, but fulfill what you're supposed to do. It was one more year. One more year.
And I get what you're saying. I just look at the fact that number one is it goes back to me when we're talking about HBCUs, and this is why I say the problem is much bigger than Coach Prime himself. We are setting our students up because number one is they may get a scholarship to go play football, basketball, or whatever, but then are we setting them up for life after? Then also we get you in there and we get you dependent upon somebody, which brings on addictive behaviors for me. Mm-hmm. And you don't know how now to operate without that person. And so now all of your faith is locked up into one person. What does that say for how we actually prepare these students to live a life? Is your life surrounded around one person that now that one person is gone, you have lost all of your bearings. You've lost all of your footing. You don't know how to operate. Now, granted, I've never been in that world. So I can't even begin to understand how deep the culture is. But one of the things that I see here that's systemic within our HBCU programs is we're looking for a savior. We're looking for somebody to bring us out. We're looking for somebody to rescue us. And when that person does not deliver, we're all up in arms about it, and we don't know how to move forward. It becomes the bane of our existence. Whereas look at where you are now. Move past HBCUs. if your job ended today, if things didn't go your way, what would you do in the morning? You would get up and start looking for an alternative way. But right now, what we have is young, impressionable people. So I'm going to double back. Young, impressionable people who have been trained or who have been programmed to put all their faith into somebody who was never going to be their savior or never going to stay. And now we're looking at how do we now regroup and get them refocused. And the truth of the matter is some of them will never rebound. And they're going to keep hopping around until they figure out what to do next, if they ever figure that out.
HBCUs are a microcosm of the Black culture and experience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's be real. For 8 years, we had our Superman, and we would, I mean, you can tell a Black person anything from 2008 to 2016. I mean, it was the, and some of us acted like, that on that election night, it was like the end of the world. Myself included, I was shocked, but still, it's just one of those things that we've had so much adversity, and I don't care how well you are doing individually. As a culture, we have all had and we all carry that pain. And I think a lot of people try to hide it, but their studies have been done on Holocaust survivors' descendants. So we're talking about grandchildren, and they still genetically carry the pain.
But how many times?
Let me finish. And so what I'm thinking is this, we have to, and I'm talking about the community, and I'm not just talking about professors, I'm talking about the community. We just have to make sure, and I think that we've stopped doing such a great job of that, and people of our generation and older always had somebody that would at least attempt to stop and say, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z. Sometimes you didn't want to hear it, but God puts people in your path to tell you, and it might hit you down the road. Like my pastor said, some of you will get that on the way home. So somebody might come and say a certain thing, give you a word, whisper in your ear, and then that'll happen. But we don't see it now. And what is also happened is it's a microwave culture. Generation Z is a microwave culture. If they can't get it on their phone, they don't see it instantaneously, which Dion really plugged into. Dion is that man. He got that dog in him, like they said. He is that man when it comes to that social media instantaneous presence. They feel some kind of way. So now they're stuck. Because what are we going to do? The flashy guy, the guy that came in, the guy that represents us. So, he was the hip hop coach. This must be the money. When we were younger, must be the money. That's it. And he brought that to Jackson State, but he won. Because if he didn't win, it wouldn't have mattered. And I think that's it. And we do have broken souls. But, Mother Mary, let's bring it back. Mother Mary created a place for that. HBCUs were created because it was a broken culture all the way around, right? They were created because other people didn't want us to be there. So we created our own space, our own spot, and created greatness in spite of. And I think these kids, one of the greatest disservices of the last 40 years, these kids have been so adjacent to other things that they're not getting those lessons in a certain way. And some of us as parents now don't want our kids to suffer. So now they can't deal with some of that stuff that, when we had to hear the old folks say, I didn't have shoes, I didn't have electricity, or I didn't have this. And, you go to church and you hear, but God brought us a mighty long way. And you're so young, you're like, oh, I don't hear this, I don't want to hear this. But it's the truth. And now these kids, a little adversity. Now, some of them have some extreme circumstances. So I'm not downplaying any of that. But a little adversity, they can't take a little change. And I think that's part of the obligation piece. And I don't think Coach Prime was thinking about that even, on the long term. They need, some of those people are going to need counseling.
Do you think, though,
and
thinking about this, do you think Coach Prime left us the blueprint, though?
Well, I think there was a level of a blueprint, but it's just like me. I leave a blueprint for my son for what to do, but I have to be there to teach him.
But you got to be.
So now when it's his turn, he can step up and then he can run the race. Go ahead and step. I see you trying to jump in.
All right. Did he leave a blueprint? Absolutely. Get on social media. Have your own social media teams that can control your own story, because we all know A black man's story in the media doesn't always go as way he's planned. So have your own control. You have the easiest schedule possible. Beat up on a bunch of
We had it.
no-name schools and then say, hey, we're doing something. We're getting all these wins. And then congratulations. At the end of the day, you now built this micro dynasty of a program. But yet you kind of forget the whole point. You're a football coach. You're not the school president. You're not the board of trustee chairman, right? Jackson State will still be the I love. They will still be J5 and get ready. And we came to play all day and night. Lord knows they're basically the FAMU of Mississippi. And at the end of the day, Jackson State will be fine. HBCU football will be fine. Will we recover? Yes, we always do. We always have, and we always will. That's just what it is. But at the end of the day, I'm going to quote a Marvel movie I can't think of right now. But you either die a hero or you're going to live long enough to become the villain. How is that any different from what Jackson State has just become with Coach Sanders, right? I'm doing this for the culture, for everything. But I got that check. But when he goes to Colorado, what is he talking about? This city's beautiful. There's no crime. I come from Jackson
Yeah, that
State.
hurt.
Yeah.
There's no crime here at Boulder, Colorado.
Yep.
But in Jackson, Mississippi, these people broke into my stuff and my house, and I don't want to do all this other stuff no more because I'm here in Jackson, and I'm so glad I wore my necklaces on the field because they took my stuff.
He sold us a dream.
He should. Yeah.
You really want to elevate this program, the process? Fine. Congratulations. You helped so many HBCUs out. Look at Alcorn with their training situation. They needed trainers. What did he do? Hey, I got a phone call. Help me out. They had trainers. Look at Mississippi Valley. They needed facility upgrades. He got them that. Look at the conference altogether. Somebody's already said having the names on the back of the jerseys. That wasn't a thing at Cookman. How many years have we had blank generic space right there? Right? As I always said, it was nothing there but space and opportunity. But at the end of the day, he impacted change. He gave people the ability to say, I think we might turn the corner.
You bring up something, and I'm coming to you next, LJ. You bring up something, and what you bring up is, and I've seen this now, especially having worked at a HBCU. The problem that I see is that anybody that comes in the name of Jesus and can preach a good sermon, we end up following them, buying into it, and believing in them because they told us God said. And next thing you know, we have emptied out all of our coins, all of our savings, and we.
This is stage. This is stage at church.
because they come to us and they say God said. And next thing you know, we have blocked out everything else. We haven't even really run a background check on them. Only thing we know is that they said God said. And we are. Go ahead, LJ. Go ahead, LJ.
I'm going back to the first. I mean, what you said before, Dr. Wilson. That HBCU football. I think some of us looked at him as the savior, and I think that was a bad way to not put it, but that's a bad way that we should have thought about it because HBCU football did not need a savior, and he came as that, and we believed in him, as you say. Some of those prophets who may come saying you give a little this, you give a little that, and we believe into you. I came in the name of Jesus. God told me I'm this, I'm that.
It's miracle water.
Yeah, and we believed it. We believed it when we didn't have to. I never forget 2012 when Ryan Davis had all the NFL prospects on Bethune-Cookman's campus. I thought Ryan Davis was the man that you need to know, you need to be. But that's what I saw, that it could happen at HBCUs. You had South Carolina State have the defensive player of the year in Darius Leonard playing for the Indianapolis Colts. I know it can happen in HBCU football. Jimmy Smith for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The city I live came out of Jackson State. I know HBCUs can produce NFL players. Jerry Rice. NFL, the HBCUs can produce NFL players. We didn't need Deion to tell us that, especially someone who did not come from a HBCU himself. So my thing is, what Deion did, almost, man. And that quote actually came from The Dark Knight. The Joker said, I'm sorry, the Joker said
that was a Joker. Yeah.
that's my favorite movie. So
Yeah,
I knew it when he said it. I forgot who was said that you die a hero, you live yourself, live longer, see yourself become the hero. But my thing is, or the villain. But my thing is, Dion came in almost as an imposter and said, "Hey, I'm here for the culture," when indeed you don't know HBCU culture yourself.
Oh.
And said that I'm here to build this, build that, because you saw an opportunity. But my thing is, when you leave, now you really see HBCU culture, because now that you have came in and you've given all, you've come as the savior. Now when you leave before everybody's satisfied, now you see that this ain't FSU. this ain't Doak Campbell. You getting a whole lot of HBCUs who've been given dreams themselves and left the broke. Wow. And now you've done it yourself. And now you go to Colorado, like you say, the whole crime thing that he said at Colorado, that hurt me too. Because almost 90% of your HBCU sit in the hood.
Good. They had to.
You had no choice.
They had to. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. And I think that's like where when you sit here and you look at the whole gist of the thing, that was the part for me. Is like, it's easy to say certain things when you're not familiar with the culture. So it's easy to say certain things. It's important to you because you're there. And when it's only important to you when you're there, then in essence, was it really important to you? You know, so you have to wonder. And I take because I always tell you in the beginning, I start out in the beginning. For me, it was a business deal, so I understand what Dion was doing. But brother Thomas, as he was stating, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about playing. One of my brothers he got an opportunity, Corey Moore. With the Minnesota Vikings and Bass with the Minnesota. I played with guys who got opportunities to play in the NFL. So it's like, not saying that it can't happen to an HBCU. And the question that has to be asked, it really does have to be asked, is what did he do for HBCUs overall? What did he do for HBCUs? Now, there may be something that comes down the line that you may see something take place 10 years from now. But when you look at it overall, what you're going to tell me, television time, we always played on ESPN3 or ESPNU. Nothing changed. Jackson State just got prime time. That was it. Cookman always played on ESPN Classic, doing for the Classic. The Grambling and Southern always played prime time. You know, with certain games and all, nothing changed. What are you telling me that actually took place when we say that he did a specific thing? The thing, if you ask me what Dion, and this is throwing note, he's a walking billboard. He taught us how to market this generation, how to get the attention of these kids. That's what he taught. And so for our coaches, if they want to build sustaining programs to do, that's what you got to learn. You can't just say, well, I'm going to sit here and this is me. That's not what those young men are responding to. Because they're on social media posting their offers. They're on social media posting their highlights. They're on social media. So they're looking for coaches who are going to put themselves out there. So he's taught us how to put it. He's taught us as a watch this. This is he put us out there. Are we mad that he put us out there, or are we glad? Because he told us, y'all at the top, y'all presidents or y'all financial systems are in ruin. Y'all lie about y'all numbers. Mm-hmm. Y'all don't have good facilities. So I got to take my money, and that's why the kids don't want to come here. So now he pushes our back to the wall and makes us say, what are we going to do about it? Mm-hmm. So then we can have, and this is check to me too, even as a alumni in certain areas, because I know certain schools have certain situations and circumstances that they have to deal with. But how is your giving impacting your facility? How is your giving impacting the culture at that school? How is your giving? Because, I heard it before, and it's the truth. Well, we show up for homecoming. We show up for the Classic. We pop bottles. We get hotels. We do all this, but won't leave $5 at the school. And then what we'll say is, well, I don't know what they're doing with the money. So that's an excuse not to give. And I understand every situation, every school isn't the same. I understand that because every school has their own, but we have to find a way. He tapped into that oil start flowing. And so we have to find a way to tap into that oil starts flowing.
So what I hear you saying is that he left us an opportunity. So it's up to us whether we capitalize on this, because the blueprint is there, the opportunity is there. Do we relish in or do we die in the fact that Coach Prime is leaving us, or do we build on the opportunity of the exposure that he's already given us?
Mm-hmm. And now we go to Walmart. We go together. What can you offer what can you offer us where all of us can get, you know what I'm saying? We go after these different companies. We go to Lowe's. They need a tax write-off. Mm-hmm. Not sit back and wait on somebody to give to us, but go out there and demand, this is what we're trying to do. What's your investment in our young men? What's your investment in our young women? How are you going to impact? We talk about Black Lives Matter, but what's your investment in this culture in order to ensure that this is not a prison to pipeline movement? What's your investment? So we got to get out there. Those are the things that he was doing. Mm-hmm. Reach out to these celebrities. What can they say? No, we don't have it anyway. Let them say no. So what? Mm-hmm. But at least put ourselves out there so we'll know, look, we're trying to put our student athletes and our student body, because it impacts them as well, in the best position possible, and we need your help.
So you look like you had a thought.
That's fine, well and good. But a blueprint without a fuel source is just a machine that's taking up space.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Deion Sanders, love him or hate him, had the ability to garner clicks, views, all that stuff. In fact, his first 9 days after being hired at Jackson State was valued at $19 million in 2021. Something that we're all familiar with, being from Bethune-Cookman, is a bike week. That only garners $15 to $16 million. So to say that his impact is minimal is kind of asinine, really. So when you factor in who will be that source, right? And they could get another big name. They can do the same thing. We'll be having the same conversation in, I don't know, 2 years from now. But at the end of the day, who will be that person who can say, notice me, I am championing HBCUs. I understand HBCUs. Look at my kid. He's a football player. Yeah, he want to act like he's a J5 drum major every time he comes on a football field. Bought a whole mace and everything. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of crazy when you think about it, because
look at the comment from here.
He's in the process of building up the University of Colorado. He even stated that he will not play HBCUs while head coach at University of Colorado. Granted, none of us like money games, but at the end of the day, does he owe us that?
I do.
Does he owe us at least one game to say, hey, I understand you guys may not have it, but hey, I can help you out. I'm trying to build this micro Wakanda, if you will, where I'm having predominantly Black coaching staff. I'm creating this little dynasty in Boulder, Colorado that we haven't seen since the early 90s, back when they won their last national championship, back when it was last relevant in anything football related, right? And here I am building this thing, but at the same time, I'm taking from you those blocks that I help you build. I'm taking those too. So what do we have to stand on? History lesson? A name?
Jesus.
We coming for the band.
Jesus sent him out. Yeah. He sent him out.
We have the blueprint. Great. All we need is a coach that has the ability to control social media, his ability to attract young talent, and more importantly, beat up on a weak schedule. It's really that simple.
So it sounds like to me you're saying we need. It sounds like to me you're saying we need a hero.
No, you don't see that. You don't. You got to look at the time in which we're living in. Deion tapped into that. We got a lot of coaches who are great coaches, but you got to tap into the generation in which you're in. I got a friend. He at this point he's a high school coach. He knows how to tap into those young men when he's dealing with them. You got to know how to tap into them. You because that's the only way you're gonna have an impact. He left us a blueprint for what they're doing in college now. So what are we gonna do? Say, okay, we're not going to. Well, we're not gonna. No, let's come together. And I seen somebody put it on there. Be a collective. Come on, Because of not, if we sit back and say we're going to keep doing the same thing we've been doing, we're going to keep getting the same results we've been getting. Dion showed us if we do some things differently, maybe, and we have to understand it is what it is. No coach, if an opportunity like that comes, most coaches leaving. They're leaving. So I'm not mad at him about none of that. I appreciate the fact, as much as some of the stuff I might not agree with, he came, he showed us how, so he has no obligation or reason to stay. He showed us how to do it. Now, we can either sit back and say, well, who's going to do it like this? There's always somebody else. There's going to always be a mouthpiece. And it can be many or it can be few. But it's up to us to make sure, those powers that be, to make sure that they put the right people in place in order to market their schools the way that they need to, in order to get the necessary players in that they need to, in order to build a powerhouse, because it can happen anywhere. But who's willing? Some people, I don't want to do it like, okay. But to me, it's just my opinion. He left us a blueprint. Even when it comes to playing a weak schedule, Dion, that was strategic. I'm not saying play a weak schedule, and then here we go for us saying that we shouldn't be playing these Power Fives. I've seen many years where Cookman has played some good games against Power Fives and had opportunities, or either higher ranked D1 schools that had opportunities to win. You don't want to keep giving your people say you just play those games to beat. No, you can get hurt playing somebody you beating up on. So that getting hurt now. You have to put yourself in a situation for your team to get seen, for your players to get seen. I think he gave us an opportunity, but man, we got to figure out how we can make this work for the SWAC, because he gone.
Well, I know we can talk about this all night, but we have come to an end. And so I am going to allow this panel to give some closing remarks, because I dare not have a conversation and not leave with something for people to think about or to ponder. And so I want to go ahead and close it out. And this situation is, I believe, is bigger than Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, because there is a systemic issue in our communities where individuals come in as the savior and then they end up leaving us for whatever reason. And I think Prime just has a bigger face that we put on this because of the billion-dollar industry that football is. But I think we have to think about this within our communities, within our churches, within our schools. People come and sell us a playbook. And I'm not saying that that's what he did. I don't know, because I don't know him. But what I do know is that oftentimes, now that I'm on this side of the age, oftentimes we buy into it, hook, line, and sinker. We just buy into it. We like, oh my God, here's the person that's going to bring us out. And we buy into it and not really think about what our role is and how we should receive that person and what role we allow them to play in our lives. So I dare not leave without having some type of things for individuals to think about. So Dr. Headley White, we're going home. Give us some last words of what you think about the obligation is and how much bigger this is than just Coach Prime.
It's a microcosm of everything that's going on. How do we keep our HBCU institutions viable? I think that's, and how do we keep our communities viable? I think you touched on something. People come into our communities as well. And it's kind of like, I'm going to use the Simpsons episode with the monorail, for older folks, where the guy came in and he sold them on a monorail, and everybody's like, monorail. They started singing the monorail. He took the money and left. And I think that's the position that we're facing. He did leave a blueprint, and we're just going to have to figure out a way to do it without the face. I think and it's going to be hard. But we have to figure that out. And I think there are other ways to do it. I know that giving is a central part of what was talked about, but it's also those contracts and those, it's so much bigger than giving. As bad as, we're talking about Colorado is, their endowment is $1.85 billion. Now, Jackson State's is $30 million. In fact, all of HBCU's endowment together is $800 million. And so we have to make those contacts, because, historically, we don't have that kind of money we could give till we're blue in the face, and it would be hard to catch up. So I think that's the part we have to do. We have to make ourselves and we have to make ourselves marketable in so many different ways. So I think that's it. I think if anything we've learned from that is we have to count on ourselves, right? I mean, that's what we have to do, and we have to be ready to do some hard work and heavy lifting.
Appreciate it. Simp, what you got?
We'll be fine. HBCUs all across the world will be just fine, no matter how you want to slice the cake. BI Love will still be BI Love. HBCUs in its swag will still be HBCUs in its swag. But that's not where we're trying to be, right? We will show that we can be better. We will show that we deserve better. We show that we can negotiate better, that we can have a more demanding tone in our negotiations across the board. And that's what we need to maintain in order to continue our momentum. If we don't, we'll still be hell Wildcats. Who would ascend to the top of the mountain? Everybody come for pregame. We'll still be that. And another generation will come by and we'll be like, why can't we have that? Move about.
I told y'all who we were dealing with here. I told y'all it was gonna be some shady stuff that come out. That's my guy right there. Simp is all right with me. Dr. King, what you have?
Oh man, so much has already been said, and I appreciate the conversation because in so many aspects, I think all of us brought some valuable points, brought some valuable insight and some hindsight into the situation. I would say, I would go beyond Dion, and I think this is a challenge to our institutions. I think it's a challenge to our institutions to look out and look abroad at ways, and I'm not saying that they're not, but just thinking about ways that we can make these connections and generate and put some respect on my name. And I'll say that from the standpoint of I'm for money games, but I'm also for money games that are viable and valuable to us when we play, not just to say I'm gonna take this so I can. So I understand. Put some respect on my name. Recognize, hey, we're coming here, so you don't give me enough to get me to the game and get a hotel and get back. I need something that's gonna help sustain my program, that can pay my program debt for this year, and then everything else we can pocket. So we have to figure out a way. We got to get out and we got to get in these different. But I don't know if I think we're looking at ways to get money through our alumni. We're looking at ways to get money through people giving, but not saying, hey, let's go out to these companies and let's say I saw somebody put on there about the airlines, who's the official. No, that's what we need. Come on, we get together and say, look, this is going to be our rate. If we fly with you, this is our rate. If we fly, you got it, and that's money that's going back into your program. So I think it's big for these ADs and these presidents and these board members to understand the impact that they can have on the growth and development in the future of HBCU athletics.
LJ, what you got?
Well, I'll say this. This word has been thrown around a lot about the word savior. And nobody is the savior to anything, not at least when it comes to me, outside of Jesus Christ, number one. Number two, my second savior, I use this in earthly terms, is my father. My third is Dr. Earl Burney at Bethune, who's at Bethune-Cookman University when I was there. And my fourth would be my daughter that's on the way. Why? Because they extremely changed my life in ways that I cannot explain. I say that to say this. HBCUs, not just HBCU football, HBCUs have changed the lives of so many people. Mm-hmm. And Dion will never be the savior of that. So Dion is not obligated, but am I? Yes. Bethune-Cookman gave me the opportunity when no other school did. And because of that, I'm obligated to my daughter. I'm obligated to my young kids that I mentor. I'm obligated to the people I'm sitting in meetings with to shout Bethune-Cookman University to the mountaintop, because to me, no University of Florida is better. No University of Colorado University is better. Nothing is better. And what can I tell my friends and my family about Bethune-Cookman University? We produce NFL players. We produce doctors. We produce lawyers. We produce business owners. And my thing is this. HBCUs, as Brother McCorvey just said, will be just fine.
Just fine.
And there is absolutely nothing Deion Sanders can do, whether he's here or not. And I can simply sit here and say, because I truly mean it, who is Swag Baby? I am. I am. Because that's true. That's the truth. That's the truth. And I'm a preacher from here until Bethune-Cookman go to another divisional conference, because HBCU is gonna be good. We're gonna be all right.
I think it's time to take up the offering.
Okay.
So I do appreciate you all for being on. And, I'll close by saying this. We're always looking for someone to do something for us. And that's the truth. We all have that thought somewhere, or that dependence that we want. But I have to tell you, my disappointment is when we don't set people up to believe in themselves, to believe that they are greater than anyone else out there. More so, I feel that we continually teach people to survive right down with what's in front of them and not survive for their future. Mm-hmm. There's going to be life after college. And if we don't set these young men up, these young women up that are coming through our schools to be good community people, to be good businessmen, to be good pastors and just good leaders overall, then we are failing as a nation. And we will continue to put ourselves in the hands of people who will eventually move on. And let me be clear, absolutely clear when I say this. I say it is bigger than Coach Prime. Every one of us goes into a job looking for an opportunity. And you have to think that the person that's in your life today that is helping you, get the tools that they are giving you. Get the tools that they are trying to teach you, or that they're trying to lend you. Because tomorrow they may not be there and you may have to stand on your own. And the question is, will you stand or will you fall? That is the real test that I feel of a man, that you've been given everything that you can give. What will you do with that that's within your hands? Because even to some of us, it may not seem like a lot. But even when you get the little bit in your hand, will you make it grow, or even will you sit there and complain while you're waiting on the next savior to come and continue making the same mistake over and over? And I hope that we've learned a lesson from this, and that when the next person comes, we look at the lessons that we're supposed to learn so that we can stand on our own. I appreciate you all. And I love y'all, fellas. I love you, fellas. I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. Good night to all the listeners. And remember, hey, you can do this. It's much bigger than just Coach Prime. Have a great night, everyone.